Professor Yang Jiang has really inspired me, as he has millions of people, and his channel has blown up recently. I don't know if you've heard of him. This video is called The Theory of Everything, and it inspired me more than most of the books and things I've read over the decades on the meaning of life, on the purpose, and inspired me to really go back to a meditation practice. With the knowledge of meditation being so good and all those things, this took me into something different about meditation. And I'd like to share it. I shared this video with a lot of my friends, and I don't think they watched it. So I thought I'd share what really touched me about this video. And, you can watch his entire lecture as well. He starts with the Plato cave.
So, as you may know, it all started with a Big Bang. Okay? The Big Bang. So, in the beginning, there was a massive ball of energy, and then it exploded. Okay? And because of this explosion, it would create stars and planets and black holes and solar systems. And that's how the universe was created, through the Big.
And this isn't about necessarily debunking or confirming that this is how the universe is created, but we're taking a theory that this is energy. Energy is what was here first, or what is really here now. And as a scientist that constantly contemplates what is holding these atoms, these electrons, neutrons, and protons together in this space, like, what is that? Is that energy? Is that nothingness? Is that the same thing? So the basis for that isn't about truth or factual, but it's a premise for this theory of everything.
Big Bang. Then we had the Earth, and on Earth, life evolved, starting with plants and sea life, and then we had lizards, mammals, and then we got to humans. Okay, so evolution. The thing about evolution that's very important to understand is that it's all about mutation. So the genes will randomly mutate, and then those genes that are best adapted to the environment will survive. Okay? And this is the idea of the survival of the fittest, introduced to us by Charles Darwin. Okay? And that's how we came.
Again, this isn't necessarily about, the theory of that and how you believe and what you look at in that. And as a side note, I think of the species we are constantly losing, and I look at the squirrels in my neighborhood, and I think, well, if enough time goes on, some super squirrel will be like doing well, and that might create a whole new species, and we might create more biodiversity again in the future if we can continue to keep our air free of toxic chemicals in the water and so forth. But this is necessarily about evolution. Let's get to the cave part.
Evolution. Now we get to the human mind. Right? The human mind is unique in the universe. It allows us to communicate with each other. It allows us to imagine things. It allows us to be creative. And so neuroscience teaches us that our brains, our brains do is we filter experiences into memories. Now, if you take psychology, you will know that there's long-term memory and short-term memory. Short-term memory is just what you have today. Long-term memory is what stays in you, okay? So what the brain does is that it differentiates between short-term and long-term. And then this long-term is stored into a database of memories. And it's divided according to your emotions. Okay, happy, sad, angry, scared. Okay, so there's a rainbow of emotions.
Did he just write the script inside out? Are those the characters?
And all your memories are stored according to the different emotions inside your brain, the database of your brain. And from this, you're able to create an identity. Identity is basically an understanding of who you are, your place in the world, and how you should best navigate.
And perhaps time for another video, but the level of identity is how Relateful coaching works. And it's such a beautiful style of coaching that really tackles this area.
The world. Okay? So the idea of identity. Now, what you also learn in psychology is it is possible for you to create many different identities. So in a school, you're a student. At home, you're a child. At work, you're an employee. Okay?
And this is actually something that these multiple identities I have had with all these different jobs and different things of being an engineer and being a yoga teacher and an actor and a comedian and a Relateful coach and a partner and a daughter and an environmentalist and so on and so forth.
And all these identities put together is called a worldview. And you can understand this as your personality. Okay? All right, so this is all that science knows. I mean, this is pretty simple, but this is what science tells us about where we came from, who we are, where we're going. Now, there are three distinct characteristics about the scientific worldview that's very important for us to understand, okay? The first is that this is all random. Okay? This is really important because before we understood this as design, okay? Before we believed that there was a God, now we believe there's no God. All this is just random. That's the first thing I need you guys to remember. Second thing I need you guys to remember is that it's all material. Before, we understood the universe as spirit, mainly spirit, but now we understood it as mainly material, things that we can see and touch. We cannot see it, we cannot touch it, we cannot measure it, it does not exist. The third characteristic is that it is emergent, which just basically means bottom up.
So obviously we live in a world where we touch all the things and we do contact spirit, but this is just his basis of it. So let's get further along here and see. Okay, so I realized this video that I'm playing back here is not, the theory of everything is awesome, but he doesn't include Plato's cave, so we're going to get to that. But while we're still here, he's still working on what is reality, and we're going to get to the very juicy part soon. So stick with it, but I will put the description in the description, the different links. It's going to be actually 3 different videos of Professor Yang, and I apologize for my pronunciation. So let's get back into it, shall we?
Another possibility, okay? And in this class, I'm not trying to tell you what is true, but I'm just trying to present to you new possibilities. So what I'm going to do now is I will present to you a new possibility of how reality is structured, okay? All right, so to begin, let's talk about Kant. Immanuel Kant was the greatest philosopher who ever lived, the most influential philosopher who ever lived, because he introduced us the idea that we are not observers of reality, we are participants in reality. All right? So let me explain what he means. For Kant, there's a noumena. The noumena just means reality that is outside of us, the things in themselves. What he tells us is we can never know the noumena. We can never know this reality. Why? Because whenever we see reality, we filter it using time and space. Okay? So time and space do not exist outside of us. They are part of us. We use time and space in order to interpret reality in a way that allows us to make sense of it. Okay? So the noumena for time and space becomes the phenomena. And that's all we see, the phenomena, the things that are to me, not the noumena, the things in themselves. Okay? And so we imagine reality. We hallucinate reality. Okay, but of course, this creates three problems. Okay, the first problem is, what is the noumena? The second problem is, why do we have these filters, time and space? The third problem is, how can we guarantee that what I see is the same as what you see? Because if reality is a subjective experience, then in theory, everyone should see it differently. But we all see it the same, okay? So why is that? So these are the three problems. And so what happens is that Hegel comes along, okay? Hegel, another German philosopher, and he explains the idea of the Geist. So what he's saying is that the noumena, it's really the spirit world. It's the Geist. And when you do this, it solves all three problems, okay? The noumena you can never access because it's beyond us. It's a Geist that gives us time and space. And as a result, because it's all coming from one source, we see the world in the same way. Okay? All right. So this sounds complicated, but let me now use quantum mechanics to explain what this means, okay? Let's talk about quantum mechanics.
Okay, so for just a second here, let's discuss phenomena and what phenomena can be is, I think the Muppets are the answer to this. So back to where I was at earlier was electrons, protons, and neutrons, and he's about to cover that right now. Let's get back.
Okay, so in science class, you're taught the Neo-4 model of the atom. Okay, it's a simple model. You have the nucleus, and then around the nucleus, you have these electrons that orbit the nucleus. Okay, you're taught this in physics class. If you are in a more advanced physics, you will taught that it's actually an electron cloud. Why? Because we never know for sure where electrons are. So we can only know the probability of where they are in orbit, okay? So it's called an electron cloud. And this is what you're taught in school. When you go to university, you will be taught this is completely and utterly wrong. Why? Because this assumes that these atoms are matter, they're solid. But in reality, if you go deep enough, you will find that they are actually just vibrations, what we call quantum fields.
And this is what we touch into with this practice, the relateful practice that's so hard to describe and so hard to articulate. We have a bunch of different perspectives and interpretations, and they're all close to perfectly right. And this is where we go. Why it's so unique and such a special practice. The quantum fields.
And they are just vibrations. And what the electron really is an intersection of these quantum fields. Also, these quantum fields can always exist in two states. The first is as a wave, the second is as a particle. Okay? And we can only know if it's a wave or a particle by observing it. And this is what's called a wave function collapse. In other words, all of nature is vibrational. It's energy. And it's only when we observe it, when we interact with it, that becomes something solid that we can see and measure and touch. Okay? It's called the wave function collapse. Okay? So, this is complicated. So, a physicist named Ernst Schrödinger, he creates a thought experiment called Schrödinger's cat. Okay? You may have heard of it, Schrödinger's cat. And so imagine a box, and inside is a cat. And then the cat, inside the box is also some toxic chemicals that may or may not break. If it breaks, the cat dies. If it doesn't break, the cat's still alive. And what Schrödinger teaches us is that when the box is unopened, we can never know the state of the cat. It's only when we open it can we know it's dead or alive. But before then, it's both dead and alive. Okay? That's simple to understand. But then another physicist introduced a new concept called the friend experiment.
So with the cat experiment, this is like me and YouTube, basically. It's like, if I don't make YouTubes, then I didn't open the box. I don't know if the cat's alive or not alive because it's like not created yet. Or if I make a YouTube and I don't upload it, like it saves me this like painful question. It's like I was so natural and calm taking tests in school. No problem, no pressure. I could take a test all day long, whether I'm studied or not studied, excellent at it, not excellent at it, doesn't bother me. But when the test results are out, oh my gosh, I don't want to open the box. I'd rather not know. Can I just not know? That's the pressure. So I've been with this Schrödinger cat my whole life, and like here I am. I've been wanting to make YouTube since I was a child. I made videos since I had a video camera at 10 years old. This has been my life's dream. And then I got caught into the acting world and thought, oh, I want to do a commercial and have a commercial agent and say dialogues of other things that were written for shows that aren't speaking my purpose and passion. And although acting, is a love that you get to this truth, to this field, to this place beyond the form, phenomena, that we touch. And when we touch into that, we all feel touched. And so I understand why great actors move us and we love them. So Schrödinger cat, let's go back to his brilliance.
Or Wigner's friend. And this is more complicated because he says, okay, if you are the experimenter and you open a box, you now know the state of the cat. But what if you're a friend? Okay? You don't see the box. You're outside the laboratory. When the experimenter opens the box, does the wave function collapse? And the answer is, it does not. Okay? It does not. And what this is telling us is there is no objective reality that exists outside of you. When the experimenter opens the box, the wave function collapses for him, but does not collapse for the observer and for anyone else. We have to open the box ourselves in order to see if the cat is alive or dead. Okay? But what if this person tells us? The answer is, it still doesn't collapse. We have to participate in the reality ourselves. And what this is saying, okay, this is hard to understand, is that everyone lives in his or her own reality. Everyone has a unique universe onto himself or herself. And that's what quantum mechanics teaches us. Okay? All right. So now let's try to, based on all this, okay, Kant and quantum mechanics, create a theory of reality. Okay? So what's important to understand is that everything are just vibrations. Okay? That's all it is. It's vibrations. Yeah?
But I thought like quantum mechanics can
is that what we need to understand is that if it's vibrations, if it's energy, it's also information. Okay, does that make sense? All right. So what our brains do is, our brains are not independent. Our brains connect to the universe, okay? So as the universe is vibrating, we're receiving information. And then through our experiences, okay, this vibration allows us to turn it into memories. You understand? We're taking this vibrational information, we're taking our experiences, we're combining to memories. Now, this is really important. The memories now go back to the vibrational force. So our memories are connecting to the universe, and they're being stored in the universe. They're being imprinted in the universe. It's an imprint. And this, and of course, is no different from the internet, right? On the computer, whatever you write is being stored on the internet. So whatever you do is going to change the internet. And you receive information from the internet, okay? So you're participating in the internet, and you're part of the internet. Okay? And the same thing is happening here. Okay? So everything's vibrational. If it's vibrational, it's information. We take the information and we combine with the experience to turn into memories. The memories then go back to the universe. And so it's as though we can implant ourselves into the universe. Okay? Now, this is hard to understand. So what we've done is every single culture has turned this knowledge into a story that is easy for people to understand. Okay? So I'm going to tell you this story. And this story, this framework, I'm actually using Dante. Okay? All right, Dante. What does Dante tell us about the universe? Okay.
I think we got a good taste here. And Nick, the next video will be more about the Plato cave and how projecting onto the screen is the phenomena, not the phenomena. And so like all of our screens is not the thing. And so the thing is the thing between us. The thing is this thing we can't necessarily touch or hold or put in that Schrödinger box, like the thing. The life force energy, the thing that makes the cat alive or not alive, that thing, like how do we touch that? What is that? And how does it connect with each other? And so the next video will be more these types of things. But this has been fun, and thanks for sticking with me as I begin this journey, opening this Schrödinger box.